Quadash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. That is the prayer that the angels sing day and night to the Most High, and can also be said as a mantra. Yah, He, Ba, He. Those 4 syllables can be said as a mantra. The first Yah signifying the Father who art in heaven. Abba, the architect of the universe, which is a divine masculine. He being a divine feminine, which correlates with Mother Nature, the womb of the earth where mankind was formed and created. Va being a divine masculine, which is mankind itself. In the beginning, Elohim said, "Let us create them in our image." Keywords in that passage is Elohim because it's plural. It means more than one. That's where you get the divine masculine and divine feminine from. And the keywords us in our image. Back to He being a divine feminine, which correlates with Mother Wisdom, or under the Hebrew Sephiroth tree of life, Ana Chokmah, because Chokmah signifies wisdom. As above, so below. The macro prosophis above and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms in the host of the Elohim. Alright, here we go. We're about to get into part 2 of the story of the fall of man. Yesterday we did part 1. I was trying to go as much as I can until the video cut off due to data storage purpose. So where we left off at, I was talking about Christ's birthday not being December 25th, and the names of the ruler of the evil inclination is, which would be what it was talking about here when it was talking about Lucifer, Athamas, and Omorphos. And I was telling you about in the holy tablets how it says that his name is Natas, which is Satan backwards. Then I was getting into the whole Santa in the December 25th, and I was telling you about how in other texts it talked about the Messiah's birthday being 9/11/3 BC, which signifies 9/11, tragic day, 2 towers. And I was talking about how how it talks about in Revelation. It says that the Messiah is coming back with his garment dipped in blood. And it talks about 2/3 of the population of Earth being diminished and the sweeping of the wicked off the land. Well, I was going into, a comparison to Marvel's Infinity War. How Thanos, being purple, or violet, which is the highest color in the chakras, the highest state of awareness, that how every stone he got, it gave him a different power within the universe. And as we know, there are 12 crystal stones that signify each tribe of Israel, or the children of light, and each one of these tribes have a different attribute, ability, and power. But back to the movie, Marvel's Infinity War, and Thanos, which his purpose in the movie was to be a balancer. So he decreased the population for the greater good of humanity. But one of the scenes in the movie, now that we're talking about 9/11, 3 BC, 9/11, Twin Towers, 9/11 being 911 emergency, 9/11 as a sacrifice, because in the movies, Marvel's Infinity Infinity Wars for him to get one of the final stones that gave him these powers and ability, he had to sacrifice his daughter at the two towers, you know. And in the Hebrew, one of the Hebrew prayers out of the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon, it goes, "Glory in eternity, touch my shoulders, guide me in paths of wisdom. Mercy and justice be ye the equilibrium and splendor of my life. Understanding and wisdom give unto me the crown. Spirits of Makaf, meaning the kingdom, conduct me between the two columns whereon is supported the whole edifice of the temple." And the words that stuck out to me was, "Conduct me between the two columns whereon the whole edifice," you know. And he sacrificed his daughter at these two towers to get this stone because it was more important to him, because that was his mission, to serve his greater purpose, you know. And believe it or not, the name Thanos is in the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. And a video I did a while back when I was talking about the multiple names of power and how they ignite certain events that are going to happen on Earth in the end times, you know. But back to this. I don't mind this scribble. I had my little daughter in my hand, and I gave her the marker as I was highlighting, and I let her feel like she was doing something and scribble on the paper. But right here, it says, and it's talking about, let's read this part again. It says, certain heads of the angelic hierarchy refuse to obey the laws which govern the pleroma, that they wanted to go over the degrees higher than their class without fulfilling the required condition, which caused great disorder in the pleroma. Anarchy and mayhem resulted from the state of spiritual denial and hostility. As a result, the majority of the angels fell. A entity known variously as Lucifer, Athamas, and Orphoremorphus, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but led the uprising. To coerce these fallen angels into compliance would have been a violation of omniety, laws of free will. To restrain their perversity, their bad intentions, omniety emitted the lower spiritual planes to circumscribe and contain the actions of these rebels of the spirit, to limit their ability of effect upon the pleroma and higher realms. As a result of egoic focus, the principles and components, elements of these entities were spontaneously densified or crystallized according to the natural rules. In reality, the entirety of cosmic law is the expression of omniety, is omniety. Discord with one spiritual nature naturally densifies the being and limits the mobility of the soul and spirit. This is what happens to Sakla. He degraded and restricted his expressions as a result of his rebellion against the rule of his existence. The nature of evils, low vibrations, the low vibrations of ignorance, being unaware, like the root chakra, which deals with survival and security, and also deals with fear. You know, like when you feel fear, your legs start to shake. It's a low vibration, you know. Limits its own extension. This is why no sort of evil can exist in the celestial worlds. The law of cause and effect, as we read in the 7 principles of the Kabbalion in past videos, not omniety, was responsible for the punishment. Opposing God's will is essentially opposing one's own rules of existence. Because we are connected to nature, just as the cosmos is, just like the masculine is connected to the feminine. You know, as above, so below, and everything works in duality. As the Bible says, work our own salvation out with fear and trembling. Let's read that again. Opposing God's will is essentially opposing one's own rules of existence, because God lives inside of you. God is eternal. It is wrong to suggest that omniety punished the fallen angels, since this implies that omniety is directly concerned with and recognizes states of duality. What I was just saying, duality, the other name for duality is polarity. You mean there are two opposing sides to everything. Hot, cold, up, down, you know, woman, man, you know, everything has two sides. Good, evil, you know, esoteric, exoteric, you know. So that's why everything you read in your Bible physically that you take externally, you know, and literally, there's also an eternal meaning for it, exoteric. And that's what Jesus was talking about in his time, you know. He was showing people the inner essence of the nature of man and how you reach these heights. Directly concerned with and recognizes states of duality, which signifies that God is aware of something other than its own existence. This is nonsensical from the absolute point of view, as taught in non-dual philosophy such as Advaita Vedanta. Never heard these words before. You know, I've seen them before, but never really heard them, so I don't really know how to pronounce them. There is only God. Everything else is an illusion. This is something that all mystics agree on. After the rebellion of the angels, Adam Kadmon was re-emanated to continue his journey towards godhood. That's why Psalms 82 says, "Ye are all gods and children of the Most High." And it also says that the Most High judgeth in the congregation of the gods. The small L's, the children of El. And to be the warden of the wicked beings, or the director of their progress. Adam was in the state of transition. He was in tune with the cosmic mind while also sensing the malevolent ideas of the twisted entities. Although he was born after the perverse beings, he was spiritual. So basically, this is telling you the fall of angels happened before Adam. You know, that's what they don't. In the Bible, it tells you that they happened afterwards. You know. Although he was born after the perverse beings, he was spiritually higher because he was pure and innocent, because his mental being was still germinal. This was Adam's paradisical bliss, a blissful ignorance because he had not yet tasted the fruits of the tree of knowledge. He had been unawakened mental nature, He was unaware. Tree of knowledge. And just like people say that it was an apple, it talks about in the 10 plagues of the apocalypse of Abraham that it was a grapevine. That's why when you go into wine and spirits in these stores, they have a brand called forbidden fruit, and it tells you that the snake, it wasn't an actual snake in the garden in the 10 plagues of the apocalypse of Abraham, but it tells you it basically was a reptilian. It tells you it was a serpent-like reptile being, but was in a humanoid form, basically a shapeshifter. Something that can appear to be one thing, but actually another, but they actually saw it for what it was. Adam as warden was intended to instill purity in the wayward entities through his spiritual nature. However, spiritual, that meaning eternal in essence, It's not talking about external, but basically that he was controlling this from within. However, he was affected by their telepathic. And if you look up draconian reptilians, it tells you that these things are telepathic. They can basically read your mind, get in your head. They can freeze you in time, magnetize you, which some people call a witch riding your back. Or, it also it is a state of astral projecting as well, because other good angels and entities can do the same thing. And, they put you in a certain state of being in order for you to come out of your body or astral project and explore the cosmos or the Akashic records in the mental plane. And let's read it again. Adam as warden was intended to instill purity in the wayward entities through his spiritual nature. However, he was affected by telepathic suggestions of rebellion against the responsibilities at hand. More than that, Sackler convinced Adam that by eating the forbidden fruit, see right here say forbidden fruit, but in the 10 plagues of the apocalypse of Abraham, it tells you it was a grape. He could become like God. And he said, and you see it just said it, the entity did that with telepathy. It's starting to make more sense when it talks in an esoteric form and actually gets literal of what's really happening. He could become like God and create like omniity. As a result of his autonomous free will, Adam attempted to create but failed miserably. He made the physical realm of dense stuff known as Eve. He then filled the plane with shadowy entities unworthy of the spirit's presence. The ancient Gnostics held a firm belief that the physical plane was created by someone other than omniity, God. The demiurge, an imperfect creator, produced an imperfect hylic world. However, this circumstance provided the fragments with a greater possibility for rapid growth. Exoterically. Not esoterically, but it's telling you exoterically. External, physical. The great architect of the universe, the demiurge, or P and Ku as Chinese thinkers refer to him, was a contributing cause of the bondage of his constituent parts in the same way that are inharmonious thoughts and sentiments can make the cells of our body a slave to poor health, TGAOTU, on the other hand, is a cosmic evolution mastermind matter despite its resistance to control by interacting intelligences provides spiritual discipline to youthful souls. Adam was charmed by his creation to the point where it progressively captured him. The metaphor of a narcissus who was so enthralled and fascinated by his own reflection in a pond that he plunged into it and died spiritually. They didn't say he physically died, he died spiritually. Reflection in a pond, because water has a reflection, and back then they didn't have mirrors. So that was the only way you could see yourself. That he plunged into it and died spiritually. Amplified this state in the Greek mysteries. Adam had forgotten his true identity while identifying with his caricature. All of his former abilities had vanished in the veil of self-forgetfulness. So basically, his memories got wiped. His abilities, telepathy, all the great abilities that it said the elect will have in the end, they had in the beginning, but they were banished, Enoch had to relearn these things, Noah, King Solomon, all of them. They all had these abilities, but they were natural at one point, and due to the first great sin, they were basically vanished in the veil of self-forgetfulness. The misuse of free will caused his fall, and his ignorance, his self-forgetfulness comprised the original sin. His punishment was harsher than that of the rebel angels of the angelic hierarchy because he carried out the nefarious plans to fruition, which the rebel angels did not have the opportunity to do. The fall of man is dramatized in numerous ancient mystery schools, including the myth of the slain hero god and Persephone's capture and rape. The story of the crucified Christ is simply a reenactment of cosmic event that occurred before time. I heard this before too. And that's why I say the Bible is written in metaphors, allegories, and figurative language, and parables, I take no credit away from the physical man. I believe that there was a man that had these abilities that fulfilled all these things. But the narrative of what we're getting is not the way we actually perceive them to be, if that makes sense. Before his fall, I believe that we are all Christ. We all have these abilities, but it was one that came that fulfilled all of these things, And I believe that there's nothing new under the sun, and history repeats itself, and we wait for the past. So what comes around goes around, and everything that's happening has already happened, and everything that is to come, it already happened as well, Let's read that again. The fall of man is dramatized in numerous ancient mystery schools, including the myth of the slain hero god and the Persephone's capture and rape. The story of the crucified Christ is simply a reenactment of cosmic event that occurred before time. And in some texts, they even say that Christ wasn't even crucified. He lived well after the time that they said that he died, you know. Some people say he came back to his disciples after he was already dead and just manifest and materialized on the physical plane, you know. But either way you look at it, it doesn't take the credit away from, you know, what actually happened, the whole storyline. Before his fall, Adam was unaware of source because he was unenlightened. He thought of himself as the supreme being, much like Sackler before him. The main cause of his captivity within the tomb of matter was pride. The tomb of matter meaning the physical body. Want and ignorance. This condition of mind, this degree of consciousness may be found in today's masses, you know, meaning the majority of the people, you know, as a collective. Many people are unaware of man's divine potential. Well, that's basically what I'm here trying to teach on this channel. What it really means to be Christ-like, what it really means to, you know, use your intuition, you know, basically speak things into existence and make them manifest. Basically use the power of healing and touching with your hands by, you know, generating and using the energy around you by concentrating and meditating. Like I said before, praying is when you talk to God. Meditating is when God is talking to you. This is how these angels relay these messages to you through the ether and through the energy fields and ley lines on the planet. Many people are unaware of man's divine potential. The cosmic varieties, the existence of the absolute supreme being, higher intelligence, which is your higher self, where the crystals lies, and the spiritual worlds. And this is unfortunate state causes their energy force to be misdirected into thoughts and actions. Thoughts are mentalism and actions are materializing those thoughts, you know. Mentalism is when you think of them, and then when you turn your thoughts into action, you materialize them. That are detrimental to their spiritual well-being. We have more power than you guys think, you know, and way more than with the church. They don't even want you to know about this stuff. That's why they abolished it. But, you know, this is what Christ was really teaching and what he was trying to let people know. You can do the same things that I have done, and you can also work greater wonders, as it tells you in the Bible. From one perspective, man has never truly left his Edenic state. The apple he ate caused him to believe he was separated from his source. See how I was saying apple right here? In the 10 plagues of the apocalypse, Abraham says it was a grapevine. His consciousness, but this fruit is just used as a metaphor, you know. That doesn't even mean that it was actually a literal fruit. Could be a concept of man, you know, that happened, you know. That's why you can't take everything literal. His consciousness is obscured by what we call Mayagrams, or forms of unreality by our definition, and these Mayagrams are perfectly real to man. The Mayagrams are fleeting, the substance of which dreams are fashioned. Absolute realities is eternal. Man pushes his Edenic reality to the back of his mind and hypnotizes himself with transient things. As a result, he appears to be devoid of heavenly attributes and faculties. That is very true. From one point of view, the serpent that lured man to eat the apple, the fruit of forgetfulness, as related in the allegorical book of Genesis. See how it says the allegorical book of Genesis? reflects the law of evolution, the creative drive of the pulsing center of all. In the mystery schools, this is depicted by a serpent coiling an egg, the evolutionary force inherent within life inside man's nature that prompted him to descend into matter, unfold his divinity, and ascend to his God estate is the basis of this sign. Here says, the perverse entities eventually join man in the physical realm, and they are still with us now. Their typical evil, with which we are all familiar, has a great influence in the political, economic, social, and scientific and religious areas. As a result, humankind is roughly and symbolically divided into two lineages. That is very true. The perverse humans and the descendants of Cain, and the fragments of Adam Kadmon, and the posterity of Seth. According to the esoteric Christianity,